I hear the word burnout all the time, and I'm so curious what you think about when you hear the word. What is your definition of what burnout is and where it comes from? If you've ever felt completely drained in your business, like no matter how much sleep you get, how many things you check off that to do list, something still feels off. Today, my podcast guest is Martine Williams. She's a life alignment coach who helps mompreneurs win at work without losing at home. She shares so many things about her own life, just very vulnerable, but very clear in how she's changed those things and learned about herself through those things. She shares her burnout story and how understanding your strengths, like really knowing who you are and how you're wired, can totally change how you build and run your business. We get into energy management, comparison, what causes burnout, how to realign so you're not constantly pushing yourself to be someone you're not. You're going to love this conversation. There's a few things I love that she talked about: proving versus confident energy. She talked about the question you should ask your friends. She defines the word purpose, like I love this, like I've never heard before. And how she talks about burnout, describes what it is, was super helpful for me. And then the final thing that I loved was she said, where you are is where you are. It's not who you are. And I think that's so important for us all to recognize. I think about people in organizing. Where you are on your journey of getting organized is just where you are. It's not who you are. That was really powerful for me to hear. So you are going to love this episode. You're going to learn a lot. So get ready. Here we go. Are you ready to work less, feel more organized and productive, streamline repetitive tasks, and implement systems that allow your coaching business to run smoothly even without you? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Organized Coach Podcast, your go-to source for practical tips and solutions. I'm your host, Tracy Hoth, professional organizer, certified life coach, simplifying expert, and most of all, down-to-earth fellow coach just like you. No matter if you think you're missing the organizing gene, have ADHD, or just love anything organizing, I'm here to help you become an organized coach with a business that works for you. Pull up a seat and let's get started. Okay, Martine, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast was because you specialize in your strengths and using your strengths for your business. And we're going to get into all of that. But first, I just want to say welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I am so honored to be on this podcast today and have this conversation. It's just amazing to be able to have the opportunity in this platform, right, to encourage and empower other women.
Yes. Okay, tell us real quick what you do and who you help.
So I'm a life alignment coach. So I help mompreneurs to win at work without losing at home, really helping them to harness their strengths so that they can win at work without losing at home and not endure burnout, because that is just an epidemic that I think so many of us go through, or that people are going through, especially mompreneurs. So that's what I do.
Okay, cool. Let's jump into that real quick because I hear the word burnout all the time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what in your mind does burnout mean?
Burnout actually has many faces, and I've experienced multiple seasons of burnout. So for what I'm learning as a mompreneur myself and also working with mompreneurs is it's not just about being tired. And I think that's what so many people attribute to burnout is just this exhaustion. And that is definitely one of the symptoms of burnout. But what I'm finding more and more with the women that I work with, that it's really more about misalignment. So they're out of alignment with their natural strengths because number one, they don't know what they are. They don't know how to harness them. Number two, they're out of alignment with their priorities in the season of life that they're in right now. So if you're a mom with littles, it's a very different season that I'm in now. My kids are teenagers and one's, about to fly the coop and the other one's right behind him. So it's just very different priorities, right? So having those out of alignment as well. And then also like the joy. So I believe burnout also comes from not doing too much, but doing too little of what actually lights you up. And if you ask women today, what is it that lights you up? What actually brings you joy today? So many don't know because they've been so wrapped up in the roles of being a mom, being an entrepreneur, whatever roles that you're playing today, you've allowed that to become your identity versus who you are. So it's what you do becomes your identity versus actually who you are. And so that's what I help women to do is to get back into touch with who they actually are so they can align everything else.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Those three areas. Say those again. The out of alignment
In your natural strengths. So understanding what your natural
okay.
strengths are, aligning those with your priorities based on the season that you're in, and then also aligning the joy, right? Like, what are the things that actually light you up? And so many of us, again, like it's just, we're kind of living our lives not consciously, right? We're not consciously aware of what's exciting for me right now, what's fun for me right now, because we're so, especially as women, so others focused, and we get into that service mode, and that's a really great quality to have. But sometimes you got to think about yourself also. Not sometimes. You need to be thinking about yourself too, because your business and your parenting and your marriage are only as healthy as you are. You are the asset to your business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This makes me think, someone just recently said to me, well, don't do it unless it's a hell yes. And I was
Mhm.
like, first, I started making me question, like, well, okay, I don't even know for sure if I know what that feels like within me. So I was trying to think of, so anyway, I won't get
Yeah.
into all that right now, but that makes me think, okay, yes. I mean, we need to know that. And it takes time for us to just think about it, dream about it,
Yeah.
write about it, whatever, just so that we're aware. And then for me, even as I was thinking about it, I got to know what that feels like. Like, let's go back and find some times when that was the case.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
been so long for so many of us, right?
Yeah.
Because we've just been kind of going through life and living up to the shoulds, right? You should be doing this or you should be showing up like this, that we just have forgotten some of these
Yeah.
things. And so it does require a slowdown. And most ambitious women that I work with, they don't like the slowdown.
Yeah. And
Right?
there's
I don't
always so
either.
much to do. And there's always
Yes.
such a long to-do list that, you think you don't have time to do that. Oh, so good. Okay, this will lead into kind of what I was really wanting to get your expertise. I always think, okay, how can I get what you have and what you know for my listeners? So many coaches feel like they're struggling juggling everything. And this is probably all of us. We have client work, content, admin, all of it.
Yeah.
But how can understanding, and you mentioned it a minute ago, with understanding their natural strengths, help them run their business more efficiently and then avoid burnout? So talk to us about identifying strengths and how you help with that.
Yeah. So when you understand what your natural strengths are, like how you're wired to work, how you're wired to lead, how you're wired to make decisions and communicate, it just gives you a framework for energy management. So I believe energy management is the new time management, right? And so it helps you to create a energy management or a business that is sustainable versus stressful, and you're pushing through and you just keep trying to be someone that you're not, because you see this person over here who's being highly successful in her business or his business, and you're like, oh, it works for them, so it must work for me, right? And that's not always the case. So 4 cornerstone personality traits that we all have: dominance, extroversion, pace, and conformity. And so for me, my dominance trait is super low. What does that mean? Well, someone who has low dominance in their personality, that's your take charge trait. So to be a CEO of my business, like, you have to have some take chargeness in your personality, right? So, but it takes a huge adjustment. It takes a lot of energy for me to become that more dominant person. It's required, but it's not how I naturally operate. I'm the more supportive, team collaborative. That's what makes me a great coach, because I am that supportive, like, help you and like collaborate with people, but I don't have a high level of take chargeness in my personality naturally. So on the days where I need to be the CEO of my business, right? I know now how to manage my energy around it. I know it's going to take more energy for me to be in strategy. It's going to take more energy for me to make decisions in my business today. So I actually have certain days put aside for that. And so I'm getting my mindset right. Okay, this is the day I'm putting my CEO hat on. I know it's going to be so exhausting to me, so that by the end of the day, I don't want my husband or my kids to even ask me what's for dinner. Like, I don't want any more decisions to have to be made that day. Right. But for so many years, Tracy, like, I didn't have this information. And so I really compared myself to that highly strategic, higher dominant personality that I saw in my peer groups and I saw in my masterminds. And I just thought, wow, I wish I could be more like her. And so instead of like harnessing my natural strengths, I actually was downplaying them and highlighting my weaknesses. That's exhausting to run a business in that way. So now I know the things that energize me, and I know the things. So I call them my energy givers and my energy zappers. I know what gives me energy in my business, and I know what zaps my energy in my business. And I plan accordingly in my weekly schedule.
Well, and I can see how you were saying that you compare to that person, then how you're just always pushing to be more like that, and how
Yeah.
that I could totally see that is where burnout comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Because the beautiful thing about the Pro Scan, which is the tool that I use with my clients, it actually shows you, okay, these are your natural strengths. And the intensity of those in your personality is what determines how much energy it takes for you to make that adjustment. So again, very low dominance in my personality. So for me to stretch up to that take charge person, it just takes a lot more energy. Now for you, you might have dominance below the midline too, or lower in dominance, but you might be higher than me. So for you, it may not be as exhausting for you to be that take charge person. So we're all different in that way. And so for you to have that information, it really does cut out the comparison. You can't completely cut it out because I think we're human and that's the human experience, but it does help you to highlight and then align those strengths with how you're going to build your business. How I build my business is very different than some of my peers. And I've learned now how to harness those strengths versus hiding them.
Okay, so you mentioned what'd you call it? The Pro Scan? Is that the
Yes.
tool you use? So
Yes.
how is that? So I am not really a big personality trait taking thing. Like I take them, but then I can never remember what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. So common. Yeah.
Tell me how this is different. Like I've never heard of this before. So where do you find it? And like, how is it different than another one?
So it's been around for 40 years, and so it's not new, but it's mainly been used in like HR departments for hiring and making sure you're bringing the right people in and putting the right people in the right seats. So there's very few of us that are using it for personal coaching and development, which I think is a huge miss from the company because I've taken them all, Tracy. I've taken Strength Finders and Enneagram, and like you said, I've taken them all. But what I find is so many people have taken them because they're free and you can get them online, but no one's actually coached them on what do I do with this information, right? It just kind of gets in a file folder and you're like, that's great. Made me feel good. I might know a little bit more about myself, but then you don't do anything with it, right? So that has been my case. And I'm not saying, I mean, they're all great. I love them all. I'm a personality. Like I just love learning all those things. But for me, this one has been different because it actually has a real-time functionality piece to it. So it doesn't just show you who you are, which most of them do. It actually shows you how you're operating and how you operate when pressures are being applied. So this is where a client can come in and take the Pro Scan and I can see in real time, oh, well, no wonder you're feeling this way because these are the adjustments that you're making in your personality right now for whatever reason. And sometimes those adjustments are needed, right? Like I have some clients who have very little conformity, which is like your systems and structure trait. It's a great quality for entrepreneurship because we need to be big picture thinkers, right? But when you're trying to set goals and stick to a system, which I know is what you coach on as well, like they would have to dial up that conformity to become more systemized and more routine. And that's going to take energy for them. So we talk about that. Okay. This is not something that naturally comes naturally for you, but you have the freedom and flexibility to make that adjustment. So that's the piece that gets me fired up because it shows them who they are, but then it also shows us in real time how you're actually doing in your strengths right now. Where are the adjustments being made? Is that helping you or is that hindering you? And then it also shows you how other people are seeing you right now, which for some people, that's really important. If they're a CEO of a company and they're leading a large organization, like they need to know how are people perceiving you? And is that how you want it to be? Or do we need to make some adjustments there too? So it's one of the most thorough personality assessments I've ever seen. Is the one that I've really been able to take and apply to my own life. And it's amazing.
It sounds good. Makes me interested. So the 4 types, the first one, the dominance one or whatever,
Yes.
what'd you call it?
Dominance. Yeah. So we all have a level of dominance and that's like your take charge trait.
Okay. And the second one was extrovert. Is that
Extroversion.
Okay.
Right. Extroversion. That's your people trait. Yeah.
That would be totally where I'd have to dial up the energy. But then I think of one person in particular and Oh my gosh, she's the most fun, energetic, like you just love her. And you're like, oh, I need to be more like that. So I can see right
Mhm.
there thinking,
Yep.
oh no,
Yep.
I'd be using a lot of energy up. Okay. And then what's the third one?
The third one is pace. So that's your patience trait. So some of us like to move faster than others. Some of us are highly processors. I have a lot of pace in my personality. So I'm highly patient with myself, sometimes too patient with my goals, right? I process things very intently. And these are strengths. And that's the other thing about the pro scan. It's all strengths based. We're not highlighting weaknesses, talking about the weaknesses. We're actually talking about your strengths. And so you won't see anything on the pro scan profile that will say, well, this is a weakness. But we do talk about the shadow side of it. I mean, there are some things like being a high paced person. I can process things a little too long, right? So I know that about myself and I can actually catch it sooner. I'm like, oh, there's that thing that's coming up for me again. So that's pace. And then the fourth one is conformity, and that's your systems and structured trait.
So do they, because it makes me think of like the DISC assessment. Does it line up with that or is it just different? They're not comparable.
They're not comparable because the thing about, and it's been a long time since I've taken DISC.
I know, me too.
Yeah, the difference is that, like, the pro scan shows you it's like your personality blueprint. No one's going to have the exact same personality profile of a pro scan as you. So I love that because I do believe we're all uniquely created. And so while you and I may have dominance both below the midline, what the pro scan shows you is how intense is that in your personality.
Mm.
And so it's not putting you in a box like, well, you're a D or you're an I or you're an S, you're a C, right? So I think we have to be really careful labeling someone or labeling ourselves. Well, I'm extroverted and you're introverted. It's not about a label. It's how much extroversion is in your personality. And once you understand that, you can predict your behavior. You can predict how someone else is going to behave when you know that about someone. Again, I have high levels of extroversion in my personality. And so how I have built my businesses is based on people. Still to this day, it's not necessarily, I'm not high on strategy. I do have systems and strategy, but they're not where I lead with my business because that's exhausting for me.
Yeah.
I lead and I network with people, and I've built both of my businesses on that trait.
Okay, so that's interesting. Let me jump into that because you were what was your previous business?
So I was in direct sales for 16 years with a company called 31 Gifts. So I was one of their top national executive directors for 16 years.
Okay, so when you think about that, at the time, did you know this personality trait thing?
I did not. And I spent a lot of time in comparison because of that.
Well, no, but I would think that you would be great at it because you have that strength of people and you're always talking to people. And that's what makes that type of company person like build a team, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does, but I'm telling you, like, there were some in my peer groups that were highly strategic. They had all the spreadsheets, they had all the systems, and I just always compared myself. I was like, because in my mind, and here's what I see with so many women is they normalize their strengths.
What theirs is, yes.
Yes, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Everyone knows how to encourage people. They don't, right? And so until I realized, like, this is my superpower. This is my strongest. So the pro scan will show you your strongest behavioral trait that you have developed over the years in growing and becoming who you are today. And so for me, mine is my extroversion. And so it's like, okay, when I think about anything in my business and how I'm going to market my business, how I'm going to show up and deliver with my clients, like, I'm always leading with that strongest behavioral trait. I'm not focusing on, well, I need to be more strategic, which is what I used to do.
Yeah, because it's
people,
well, and because that strength is so easy and comes so naturally, like you don't even have to work at it to do that.
It's so energetically aligned. And so even now, Tracy, like, as I've been thinking about, like, I was kind of been feeling just really a little bit disconnected from the marketing side of my business and, doing the traditional launch and all the things that we do with launching. And I just kind of lost the loving feeling for it. I'm like, what is going on? And I realized that I need people. I need to be around, like, in person with people. So I did a recent speaking opportunity a couple of weeks ago. And when I was there, I'm like, this is what I'm missing. This is what I'm missing. I love online marketing. I love having an online business because I can meet people like you and I meet women from all over the country. But right now, what's priority for me is I got to get up from behind my computer and get with people again. right?
Yeah.
And so it's like realizing that's where I get my energy from. I can have the best laid out plans, launch it, all of that. But if I'm not connected energetically to it, it changes the result completely. Right. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's like I can keep following the plan that I see is working for other people. And that's typically what I like to do. I like to plug and play, right? Like if you give me a template, I'm going to work it and I'm going to, do the thing. But right now, I just know I'm energetically misaligned with how I'm marketing. And so I'm going to start doing things different.
So that was a question I had then. You kind of are revealing the answer, but you built your successful business before. And I mean, even though you were comparing, your strengths played into that and were kind of
Yes.
naturally there because you're building a team and you're around people and so what else do you think helped you be so successful in that business? And then when it comes to growing your coaching business, are there the same things or do you have to really make a lot of adjustments to, like you're saying, to get with people and be with people? So talk to me about that. Just for people, I'm thinking of people out there that had a career or they were successful in a different way. And then now they're trying to grow their business. And how do you bring that forward or whatever?
Yeah. I'll share with you kind of the 3 or 4 things that have gone with me everywhere, but I think this could be really helpful for the listeners too. So I had a lady that I interviewed on my podcast. Her name is Jade Simmons, and she wrote the book Purpose, the Remix. And it was the best definition of purpose that I've ever heard. And I always like to share it and highlight it. And she said, purpose is not the thing you do. It's what happens in others when you do what you do. And so when I started thinking back to when I first graduated college, my very first job, I worked in cardiac rehab for 7 years. I worked with patients who had open heart surgery, who had high blood pressure, heart attack, all the things, right? And I thought about what was I doing those 7 years? I was encouraging. I was teaching, I was training, right? And then when I left that business, that career into my direct sales business, I remember thinking like, now how am I going to take these gifts and strengths with me into selling bags? It just did not compute in my brain. Like, how is this going to be like, how is this going to work? And when I got into leadership, right, started building a team, what was I doing? I was encouraging, I was serving, I was leading, I was teaching. Then as I came out of that business and into my coaching business, what am I doing now? I'm encouraging, I'm teaching, I'm coaching, I'm leading, right? So your purpose just jumps in different vehicles. It's the same because it's what happens in others when you do what only you can do because you have these unique gifts that you bring to the table. So I really just wanted to share that because I think that brings so much freedom to this. What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do in this world? It's what you have been uniquely created to do. And that's what I get to highlight for people and illuminate for people through the Pro Scan. But to come back and specifically answer your question, I've always led with service. It's always been about serving others, no matter what I'm doing, whether I was helping a patient, on the treadmill and building out their exercise program or, now coaching, mompreneurs. I've always led with service. The second thing is I always know my why. I have to know my reasons why because your reasons equal results. If you don't understand your reasons for doing the things you're doing, it's kind of like going uphill, right? Or going against the current. So how can you really spend some time to slow down, figure out what is priority right now? What are my reasons? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? It's a really great question to ask. And then I stay consistent, like slow and steady wins the race, and the race is only your race, right? Put your blinders up. You're not comparing yourself to anyone else. You have one life to live, and you just want to stay consistent in those things. And then lastly is I invest in the support that I need. I ask for the help that I need, whether it's delegating out, hiring an assistant or, investing in coaching. I've had a coach of some sort for the last 18 years. It's no longer, if I'm going to get a coach, it's who's going to be my coach, right? Because it's important to have that support that you need, that thought partnership, that someone who can see your blind spots. And so those have always been what I've had in my life as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And back in that business, back in your other career, and now in your own business too.
Yeah. Coaches need coaches too. I mean, we're all a work in progress, right? We never fully arrive. And so you need that person that can support you in your journey.
So what do you think as someone who like maybe listening has no idea what their strengths are or even where to begin?
Mm-hmm.
How do you discover what makes us tick? I mean, you can take the scan or the
Pro scan.
personnel, yeah, pro scan and what else do you suggest?
I think number one, just pay attention to what gives you energy, right? Because that's probably something that comes very natural to you.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's in business, your day-to-day life, like where are you finding the things that actually really energize you when you think about it? I also think one of the first things that I did before I even knew about the pro scan, I just started asking my friends, my peers, like, what do you see in me? What is it that you're seeing in me? Like, and you'll start noticing a pattern. People are coming to you for the same thing, right? They're coming to you with the same questions, the same issues, or the same, like people know when they come to me, they're going to be encouraged and inspired. They just know it. Even if I don't have all the right answers for them, they know they're going to leave the call with me feeling better about themselves because I just can't help it. That's just what I do. Right. And so I think that's the other thing is, look at what gives you energy, what are other people saying to you that they notice about you? And if they're not telling you, ask them. Go to lunch with somebody and just say, hey, I'm really trying to highlight what my strengths are. And so many times we dumb them down, right? We don't highlight them at all. We think they're just ordinary, and it's actually extraordinary. The things that you do are extraordinary. And so how can you be encouraged by someone else just by asking them the question, what do you see in me? And so in the beginning, I just sent out some emails, even to some of my peers. I'm like, okay, I'm doing some personal development work. I'm really trying to figure out, what do you see in me that I'm missing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they'll give you the answers. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there a story like of a client that you've had who's, focused in on this and now they've accomplished their goals or whatever their goals may be, I guess, grown their business?
Yeah. So just recently, when a client comes in, that's the foundation is we take the pro scan. And then in 6 months, they have the opportunity to renew. When they renew, we do a fresh pro scan because that's the other thing that's different from the pro scan. It's never intended to take just one time because we get to see that real-time functionality piece and kind of see where things have changed. So I had a recent client that renewed for a second round, and it was fascinating, Tracy, to see her natural strengths actually expand. So they didn't change. They just expanded. And like she came into coaching burned out. She, she was tired of the hustle. She was kind of going in a transition with business and what she wanted to do next. And she called it her redefining era. And so as we did this pro scan 6 months later, what it showed me was, and showed her, is that she had been downplaying all of her strengths. She'd been playing small. And because the burnout was really kind of, she wasn't able to be, how would I say, fully alive. And so to see all of these traits now just really come alive, like, look at that. Like, this is actually who you are. But you've been buried by circumstances and burnout and other people's expectations for so long. She just had lost sight of who she was and what she brought to the table. And so now she's able to fully embrace that. And so as she's making business decisions on what kind of business do I want to have next? What kind of clients do I want to work with next? She feels so much more empowered to say, I'm going to work with this client. I'm not working with this client, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to build my business this way. And like creating filters now around this new pace of business that she has, so she doesn't go back into that burnout state. But for her to see like, wow, it feels good to be me again. It's incredible to see it. Like I see it as the coach, right? But for her to visibly see it in a visual representation on a chart was just like so confirming to her that the work that she's put in is producing what it's producing now. So it's so cool.
So I'm curious, when I think of taking personality tests, often you take them and it's your own perspective when you're answering the questions, right? I mean, if someone else took it, they might get similar answers, but it's kind of like, oh, I think doing it that way isn't the best way. And so you pick the way that you're doing it, which is your personality or whatever, but it's your own thoughts about that. So when you were talking about this woman that taken it again 6 months later, it's kind of, tell me if this is right, but I'm thinking she's embracing like how she is and seeing it as a strength. So her answers are confirming that that's true. I mean, is that kind of how it is? Or do you think there's things you're growing in there? But I just think you would be like embracing or loving your uniqueness. And so your scale on the chart would go up or whatever, however it's made.
Yeah. I mean, she's definitely like accepting who she
Accepting.
is,
Yeah.
right? Accepting these are my strengths. I don't need to downplay them. I don't need to be someone I'm not. This is who I am. And so I'm fully going to step into it now. Like
Yeah.
unapologetically, this is who I am. And it's just such an empowering place to be. It keeps you in that confident energy. Whereas before, when she came in, she was in proving energy. I had to
Yes.
prove to myself, I had to prove to others, that I deserve a seat at this table or that I can build this business. That's where the burnout came in for her, was trying to prove to everyone else and to be someone that she wasn't, versus being in confident energy that this is who I am in my dominance. This is who I am in my conformity and my pace and my extroversion. I'm not going to apologize for that anymore. This is who I am, and I can be just as successful in my traits and in my strengths as the person next to me.
I love that. Imagine if we all, and it was just like, and you think of, like, I think of the body of Christ. We're all made uniquely and we work together to do it. And so if we embrace like who we each were made to be, like that does it. So it gives me chills.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean,
that,
it's the old Howard Thurman quote, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because that's what the world needs, is for people to come alive.
yes.
And that's what this process is. And again, like you, I do believe we're all uniquely created. That's why we all have fingerprints. And this is like your personality fingerprint. And when you get it and you understand it, it's just so freeing. You kind of take off the expectations and all the shoulds. And you're like, this is who I am. This is who God created me to be, so that I can do what he created me to do. And that's unique to you, right? The purpose is what happens in others when you do what you do, not what I do it, when you do it for you, right? And then for me too. Yeah.
And to know you can do you ever think like you can do that in anything that you're doing? Like you gave an example of 3 different ways that you used your personality and it can come alive in any of those areas. Do you ever think there's like a personality who's not best at being an entrepreneur, like who would be better at being in a job? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Would anybody, I always think what's coming up resistance wise, is that true? Or no, can everyone's personality be successful as an entrepreneur?
I believe that everyone can be successful. You just have to know how to work with yourself, work with your strengths. So like when God called me out of 31 after 16 years, and I had been exposed to the pro scan. And I remember seeing on that chart how low in dominance I was. And I thought, well, no wonder I'm feeling so drained, because every day leading an organization of 28,000 women, I had to dial up my dominance a lot, right? To make strategic decisions for the team and to build my business and stay current with the market, how it's always shifting, especially in the direct sales business at that time. And so I remember seeing this information, and I had already started building my side brand and business for the last 5 years before I left 31. But I remember seeing that and thinking, what does this mean? Like, do I need to throw it all away because it's exhausting for me to be this dominant person? It's not who I am naturally. So would it be better for me to just go get a job and work for someone else who has that dominant personality, or go be a coach for another company, right? And I remember thinking that. And my mentor at the time, she's like, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means it's going to take more energy for you. So you have to consciously decide that you're going to continue to build the business and manage your energy around it. Right. And so that's when I was like, okay, yes, and you probably feel this way too. There's so many days I'm like, it'd be so much easier to go punch clock and not have to think about my business all the time. But the things that I would give up to do that, I'm not willing to do. Right. So then it was like, once I made that decision, now I have the knowledge and the information to know, okay, there are certain days When I'm not coaching and I'm in the CEO hat, it's going to be exhausting for me. It's going to be harder for me. I'm not going to fight against it. I just know going into it. So I make sure I get a good night's sleep the night before. I make sure I'm properly fueled and hydrated and put on some good music. Whatever I can do to support that is what helps me. And so that to me, again, to answer your question, anyone can do it. You just have to know how to harness your strengths and to manage your energy around areas that are going to be required to be an entrepreneur, right? You have to have some take chargeness. You have to have some systems. You have to have a little bit of, extroversion in your personality if you're going to be selling, right? So it's just knowing those strengths that you have and how am I going to use those to build my business? And then how am I going to protect my energy around those areas that are going to require more of me? That's the difference.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting to think about, that anyone can do it, but it's going to require you to manage certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. So that could be, and people manage it differently. Some people might be outsourcing more, and I hope to get to a place this year where I'm going to be doing, and I do that already in certain parts of the business, but that's where, outsourcing and delegating those things that are completely exhausting to you and you can do that, do it as soon as possible. As soon as possible, do that so that you can stay in your lane, right? And stay in your strengths.
Well, and also finding the strength in how you create business from your strength. Like, I think that would be key too, just learning like, okay, this is where I attract clients. This comes naturally, this part of it. And I need to be making sure I'm being really big on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once you understand that, so again, for me, it's my people trait. So 50 to 70% of my behavior is going to be driven from that trait. And so am I utilizing that to the greatest extent?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the thing. It doesn't mean that people who have low extroversion can't be in sales. It just means how you sell is probably going to be different than how I sell.
Right. Ooh, such good things to think about.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm like, everyone should experience the bro scan. I mean, it's just one of the most amazing tools to free you up from all of the self-sabotage that happens and the comparisonitis that we have, and also burnout.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now I have a really more clear picture of what burnout is and how it is, how it shows up when you're pushing yourself in areas where you're like, that are not your strengths, like you're saying. And if you're doing that all the time, you're going to wear out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
So good. Okay, Martine, is there anything else you want to share?
I think as a highly ambitious mompreneur in different phases and seasons of my life, the most important thing is if you're feeling off is to lean into that. Check into that. Don't check out. Check in to why you're feeling misaligned or where you're feeling off. Because that was my second burnout story. It wasn't from exhaustion or losing my identity. That was my first burnout story. My second one was really around, I just felt off. I couldn't pinpoint it until I slowed down and just took some pen to paper and really thought through, okay, what is off here? Right. And it was just misalignment with not my strengths at the time. It was misalignment with where I felt like I was called to go next. And it's hard to transition out. It's hard to leave something after 16 years. But I knew that there was no more joy in what I was doing. And so lean into that. Don't make it mean anything bad about you. If you're feeling that way, it's just a time to lean in and assess and get really honest with yourself, because you have one life and we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So do it today. Really just take the time today and really ask yourself, what is it that I want? What is it that brings me joy in this season right now? And don't be afraid to take the next step to creating that.
Oh, what a perfect way. Perfect encouragement. Oh, there you go. Using your strength. Okay. Tell us where people can find you.
Yes. So all things at martinewilliams.com is my website. So you can find more about my coaching. I also host my own podcast that Tracy was a guest on, Life Coaching for Mompreneurs. So that's on all your favorite listening apps, and Instagram, Martine at Martine31 Williams.
And then you also, I think I saw I had a quiz.
Yes. So there's a burnout quiz
Okay.
on the website just to kind of assess and see, like, are you, on your way to a burnout? Are you in a burnout? Again, awareness is key. It's not about beating yourself up about it, because where you are is just where you are. It's not who you are. But we have to get honest about where we are first before we can take a next step.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your own personal things. And it's been really good.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. This is so fun.
Wait, if you're finding this podcast useful, you must check out the Organized Coach Academy. It's my course where I walk you through every step to get your business organized, to get yourself organized, to save money and time, to prepare to hire someone, to do all the things that you want to do in your business with ease. Check that out at simplysquaredaway.com/OCA. Also, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I would love it. It's my way of knowing that you're enjoying the podcast if you leave a written review. I have lots of freebies for you. They're linked in the show notes. You can find them in my bio on Instagram at Tracy Hoth. And until next week, have a beautiful day.